Hello everybody, this is a shakedown video of the Off-Grid Trailers Expedition 2.0. For those of you that follow me, you'll know I've had this thing for about 2 weeks now. I did a decent walkthrough video where I actually showed off kind of what I invested in and some of the information about the trailer itself that you may or may not see through other videos or through documentation, that kind of stuff. So I've got it out here at the ranch on a beautiful spring day here in Texas. It's the last day of April. Got it set up to about the extent of what I want to do. So I've got the solar panel set up, so it's trickle charging the batteries. Got the fridge nice and cold, got food in it. I'm just going to really shake down the trailer today in kind of a controlled circumstance, so that when I take one of the long-term journeys, I will have everything kind of figured out and tuned the way I need it to. So yeah, there's a lot of information I want to share today because there's been a lot of interesting experiences have happened over the last 2 weeks with this trailer. Nothing negative about the trailer itself. There are a couple things I'm going to point out that are a little bit annoying, but mostly it's just the discussion around the paperwork. Talk about a beatdown, especially if you live in Texas. There's definitely some things you need to be aware of about this trailer if you're going to invest in one, or if you already have and you're just waiting for it to come in. So let's go ahead and jump right into the paperwork, and I'll talk you through that. Okay, first I got to apologize about the wind. There was a front that came through and the wind's blowing from the north, so it might get a little windy, so I'm going to try to block it as best I can. But basically what you see here is all of the paperwork that you need to title and register your trailer. And some of it's pretty intuitive, some of it's not. A lot of this has to do with the fact that these trailers come from Canada. And at least in Texas, and your state may be different, any trailer or vehicle that's imported from either Canada, Mexico, or any other country outside of the United States has to go through a pretty stupid process. For the longest time, as I understand it, for the longest time, when it came to the police inspection, that was normally relegated to trailers over 7,500 pounds or vehicles that that you brought in from another country. Apparently in 2020 they changed that ruling, and now it applies to pretty much any trailer that comes over from out of the country, whether it be Canada or Mexico. So I'm just going to walk you through the paperwork here to give you an idea what to expect. First things first, your application for title and registration. That's a must. You can download that off of the DMV website or the county tax assessor. It's pretty easy to get and pretty simple to fill out. Second thing is, this is something I got at the tax assessor, and you may be able to download this. What I'll do is I'll list all the form numbers in the description, but this is basically a declaration form indicating that I guess you're declaring it as something that you've got from overseas. I don't know. The Bcp document, this actually comes with your driver. So when you get your trailer delivered, he'll have this in his hands. And the important part of this, which you can't see because this is a copy, is there's a stamp. So there's an importation stamp that they have to see. They will keep this form when you submit for your title and application. So they'll keep pretty much everything you see here, which is why it's good to make copies of all of your forms, just to make sure that you have documentation of your own trailer and all that good stuff. This form, on the other hand, this is the coveted form, and this one is a beatdown. So this is what they call a VTR 68A, and you have to have this before you can file for title and registration. And I'll get back to that, about how much pain that form caused. And then finally, trailer verification statement. This is another form that they gave me at the DMV. Actually, it's the tax assessor. You can probably download this form, but it's another one that they have to have for whatever reason. And it kind of talks about the length and the weight and all that good stuff. So just know these are the forms that you're going to need to fill out before you file for your title and registration, right? Because of the type of trailer. So let's talk about that VTR 68A and the pain points of that. And for everybody out there, we'll have a peaceful, scenic view here. This is actually where I've set up camp, right next to one of my tanks. It's a beautiful view, given that it's springtime here in Texas. It's really nice. Anyway, let's talk about the 68A form. Again, this applies to Texas. You're going to need to check with your own tax assessor to find out if this is something else that you need in your state. Okay, so let me explain kind of what's going on with this for those that you live here in Texas. First off, I didn't know I needed the form, right? I was like, well, this came from a manufacturer. I'm not buying it from any individual. So, I've got all the certificate of origin and all that good stuff. Why do I need to have the police verify that this thing hasn't been stolen? Well, because of the law, you have to do it. Now, here's the problem. a lot of agencies, and when I mean agency, I mean police departments, they will offer this service in your city for residents that live in the city. Not every agency does it. So where I live, every single city around me had, the police department had this as a service for their residents, but my city did not. So that's one thing, right? Meaning that you can't, fudge it and try to go to another city because they need to see proof of residency. The second thing is, even if you do have a city that offers this service, they're backed up until July at the earliest. And this is April right now, so it's the last day of April for me. So the reason for that is that when they changed the law and made any trailer that came in from overseas, not just trailers over 7,500 pounds, it increased the amount of activity, the amount of people that needed to have their trailer inspected before they could title it. In the state's infinite wisdom, they did not increase services. So there are no additional people involved in inspecting the trailers. So you're basically subjected to one person doing it for several counties, which is why they're so backed up. Now, again, if you live in Texas, one of the things that I found out is there are agencies that will do it for anyone, regardless of where you live, at least at the time being. And here in Texas, the two that I found that would do it are Waco and Tyler, Texas. So if you basically contact the Auto Theft Crime Taskforce, or whatever they're calling it these days, they will give you a listing of agencies in the area. And like I said, Waco and Tyler are the two that I know will do it for pretty much any resident, regardless of where you live. If you go down to Waco, there's about 8 different locations where they do it, and they do them on different days. So some of it's like, every Monday, some of it's every Wednesday. But at least the Waco part, it's a $40 fee, and you have to bring a cashier's check if they don't take cash. So $40, and you got to make your way to Waco by 9 a.m. to get your trailer inspected. If there's nobody there and you're late, the cop will leave and you're screwed. You got to come back the next week. Tyler, on the other hand, at the moment, Tyler does not charge a $40 fee. So so you can drive all the way out to Tyler. Basically what you do is you contact them, and I'll put their number down in the description. But basically you contact them, you set an appointment, and then you show up and they take care of it. Now, I went to Tyler, and what's interesting about my journey is, from where I live, it was about, it was about a 4-hour drive there and back. So round trip about 4 hours, and I blew a tank of gas because this thing is definitely, and I'll talk about the wind block side of it here in a minute. But basically 4 hours, I get there, it's pouring rain, and it takes the cop 8 minutes, literally 8 minutes. He checks the VIN on the trailer, he looks at my ID, he looks at the certificate of origin, and then he fills out his form and gives it to you. So 4 hours for 8 minutes of service. Now, I did speak to the cop at the time, and I told he was interested in the trailer, and I was telling him about how Tyler was one of the only agencies that was doing it that was close to me. And he said, yeah, we're getting a lot of people from your area coming in and actually having their trailers inspected, to the point where we might have to start charging people in the near future. So if you're getting your trailer 30 to 60 days from now, from this video, you're probably going to get charged $40 or something like that, just to cover the costs of the cops being involved in the inspection. So, the point I'm trying to make here is, it was a whipping and a half to get that form. And it's one of those stupid things that you can't file your registration until you have that form in hand. And that's a mandatory thing. So again, just keep that in mind if you're ordering this thing through direct, right, from Canada. I don't think this applies if you're ordering it from a dealer here. So like I mentioned on the last video, there's a dealer out of Arizona that handles these things. I think they cover some of that for you, so you might not have to file that form, but who knows. Some previous owners that I spoke to said that they actually didn't have to file the 68A. So I don't know if the county messed up on that one, or if it was one of those situations where it was an oversight or it just wasn't required. I don't really know. But that's something to be aware of. So just want to put that out there for those of you that are looking to buy one of these things, and to what to expect from a paperwork perspective. Now, once I had all that paperwork, then it was just a matter of going into the tax assessor's office and, giving them all the paperwork and then paying the taxes, right? And you get your plate same day. So I got my plate right then and there. The title will come in 30 to 60 days out. I will say that when I did supply all the paperwork the final time, so I went out to the tax assessor's office like 3 different times before they actually got it all sorted out, and they scrutinized the crap out of the paperwork. So it took probably 15 minutes of them hum-hawing around the paperwork before they finally came in and gave me what I needed. So it is a rarity for these guys that sometimes they don't know what they're doing and they need to talk to supervisors, and that might be where some of the grief comes from. But just be aware that that's something to consider, that 68A form. All right, so back to the trailer, because I know you're probably tired of looking at scenery and you want to see more of the trailer. So this is my first, boondocking experience, literally taking it out into the wild and just setting it up, seeing how everything runs. Solar panels doing a good job, trickle charging. I could show you guys, I'll actually show you what the volts look like on it. In Texas, where you got direct sun like this, it's going to be perfect. So I'm not really worried about that. Some things that I have discovered about this trailer, for those of you that are interested, just some things to note. The AC unit, right? So I have a Zero Breeze. This thing was AC prepped for the Zero Breeze. And I installed the Zero Breeze. I've been testing it out, trying to tune it a little bit, figure out, okay, how can I get this thing to cool down? Do I plug it in? Do I keep the battery? There's a number of other things I'm still working on. But the little platform that they have for it, it's got these bolts that stick up out of the panel, out of the shelf, and that's where you seat the AC unit. So the AC unit has these little feet that normally connect to the battery. And so it's designed to connect to your AC unit. They also have a little clamp type deal that sticks up that goes into a slot in the AC unit. And the idea being, the way these feet are designed, if you are accelerating, it actually creates a situation where the AC unit will move forward. It's kind of weird. I think it's accelerating, or maybe it's stopping. Anyway, well, the point is that what I found is that I had it in the trailer when I went out to Tyler, and by the time I got home, it had actually fallen out of the cubby hole and was landing on it sat on the mattress. And it actually kind of scraped the paint on the inside on the way down. So just note that Zero Breeze holder thing is not great. You're probably going to want to bungee it. That's what I'm going to end up doing. Or do something that if you plan to travel with the AC unit in the cubby hole all the time, be aware it could fly out depending on what you're doing in your road condition. So it's best to just try to figure out a better way to strap that thing down. So that's one area that kind of caught me out because you would think that would be set up a little bit better than that. But it might just be my unit, I don't know, but it was one of those experiences that I had that I just want to tell people about. The other thing I'll show you is the propane thing. This is something else that's kind of annoying, but want to get you guys aware of this so that when you get one of these, you don't make a mistake like I almost did. All right, so the propane tank. Cool thing about this is obviously they ship it to you empty. You can take it to an RV place, like a campsite or whatever. They'll fill it up for you. It cost me 10 bucks to get it filled. Not a big deal. However, this little bracket thing here, you'll notice that I've actually got duct tape on it right here, and I've got duct tape right here. The reason for that is when you detach this, you'll notice I've already got a little scrape right here. This stupid thing will pop the skin and actually create a little gouge in your paint job. So you might want to put some tape or some sort of cushioning on these sides so that it doesn't scrape whenever you take the propane tank off. That's one little thing that caught me out because this thing is very tight as far as how close it is to the trailer. So I know it's nitpicking, but it's just something to be aware of. Something that you'll probably want to look into. So other than that, it's been like I said, it's been easy to deal with. Getting it manhandled to set it up, to get it kind of leveled. I got one little side leveler so I can keep it somewhat level. I'm not as concerned about that as other people might be. Let's talk about towing and how this thing is handled, because I have had a lot of questions about how does this thing perform, especially with a 4Runner, which is what I have. And I'll just be transparent. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat any of this. When I took it to Tyler, like I said, it was about a little about 150 mile round trip, 75 miles there, 75 miles back. I burned through a full tank of gas doing that. And this thing struggled to get to highway speeds. And here in Texas, where I was going, it was about 75 miles an hour. So if I kept it up to 75, my engine was struggling. Now that could just be the low power. I mean, I don't know. It could be the 4Runner. Most likely that's what it is. But this thing is definitely not aerodynamic. It is a windbreak, and you will feel it back there. Even though dry, it's only 1,750 pounds. It's still enough that you'll notice it when you're towing it. Now, I did fill it up with water to get it out here, and believe it or not, it actually tows better. And I kind of thought it would, because they say that with water in the tank, you actually reduce the tongue weight by 300 pounds. So the vehicle doesn't squat as much, which is nice. So it did tow a little better, even though it was heavier with that water in it. And that might have been the difference. Now, gas mileage is still the same, getting it out here. So just be aware if you're running a 4Runner, you're probably not going to be a speed demon with this thing on the back end. And you just have to accept that. That's kind of part and parcel with owning a 4Runner. I'm sure other vehicles that have more power, V8s and things like that, will tow this thing better. But like I said, it's a bit of a wind block anyway, and it's definitely not made for fuel efficiency. You know, for those of you who've towed trailers before, you probably know this, but also got a little nervous because as I'm on that highway and I'm being passed by big rigs, I'm getting, you know, you'll feel yourself get sucked into their wake, and it's a bit of an alarming experience first time it happens. But as long as you're aware of it, you can compensate for it when it happens. So just some things to be aware of towing this thing behind if you've never towed a trailer like this, which I have not. So it's a new experience for me. All right, let's show the solar panel and then we'll wrap it up. So again, Texas sun does a pretty good job. It's sending quite a bit of power to the battery, which is nice. Keeps it nice and charged, or trickle charged at least, so that you know, you can keep the battery topped off while you're boondocking, so to speak. So that's why I opted for this, because it was you know, a little bit bigger as far as wattage is concerned, and I know solar is not the most efficient thing in the world, so it's better to overcompensate with the amount of wattage, because you're not really going to get that, but at least you'll get close to what you're looking for to make it happen. So just wanted to show that. All right, and the final question, and then we'll wrap it up. Hopefully this has been useful to everybody. I'm looking forward to really putting this thing out on the trail, but I have been asked by several people how much one of these things costs, and there's a reason why I haven't talked about how much I spent on mine, and that has a lot to do with what options you go for. I think these things start out at like $29,000 just as is, and then it goes up from there depending on what you get. Again, when you upgrade the fridge, you add the rooftop tent, you start adding the lighting package, the AC prep. There's a lot of other options that you can get. These things can go from 32 to over 40,000 depending on your options. So that's why I was a little reluctant to say what these things run for, because it all comes down to what you decide you want to put on it. And got to keep in mind too that the cost of the trailer in and of itself is not the end of it. I will say this, it cost me almost $4 grand to get this thing shipped from Canada down to Texas. So that's, you know, be aware that's an additional expense you're going to have to pay outside of the cost of the trailer itself. So if you've got the pockets for it, I think it's worth it. I think this thing is going to outlive myself. I think it'll be something I basically will down to the next generation that's interested in off-road camping. You know, I do have an RV as well, so I do have experience with the kind of the shoddy quality of traditional RVs made here in the US. So the money you're putting into this particular trailer is definitely worth it. The construction is great, the insulation's awesome, the ruggedness of it is really nice. Like I said, it's just a high standard, high quality type unit, and you get what you pay for. So as some people say, buy once, cry once, right? You can finance these. It is a little bit of an unusual circumstance if you do that. I don't understand why people finance these things for like 20 years, but you can find people that finance RVs and trailers of this type. So just be aware, if you don't have the pockets to pay for it outright, you do have some financing options that you can go after. And Off-Grid will actually help you with that. They put me in touch with somebody that would finance this for me should I need it. So they do have people available to help you and get you the best rate possible for what you want to invest in. Well, I hope this has been useful to everybody. As the experience continues to grow, and as I learn more and more about this unit, I will be sharing my experiences with you. I'm probably going to do a series of videos based on my experiences. And I know it's not about me, it's about the trailer, right? Nobody cares about my camping experience. They care about the trailer and what it's able to do. So I will try to get as much footage of the trailer and my experiences around the trailer as possible. So hope you enjoyed, and look forward to hearing your comments. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. This is just an extension of my last video. This is the morning after the first night spending time in the trailer, actually sleeping in it for the first time. And I gotta say, it's actually really comfortable. I was concerned that the mattress would be a little bit too firm or not enough cushion for my back, but it actually turned out okay. So really impressed and really pleased with the state of the trailer and the sleeping conditions. I did run the zero breeze last night, which was nice. It actually cooled down the inside of the trailer down to, I don't know, probably in the low 60s before I had to turn it off because it just got too cold. So that's actually a really good sign that when you're going to use the AC, which is at night typically when you're trying to sleep, it actually works really, really well in those conditions. So I think that was a successful test. After that, I just ran the max fan on the lowest setting pretty much the rest of the night just to make sure I had some air coming into the trailer. So made it very convenient. Still doing well on battery. What's interesting is I took the solar panel and made sure that I oriented it towards the rising sun in the morning, so I wouldn't have to get out and do that. Of course, with the dew, went ahead and wiped down the panels anyway, just to get the moisture off of them, so there'll be better efficiency. And it's recharging the batteries just fine. So, at night, if all you're really running is the fan and maybe the fridge to keep food cold, you're not really drawing a lot of power off the battery. So I'm not expecting the battery to be real low or anything like that. One interesting note, yesterday, after I did my original video, I noticed that the solar panel, because of the charge controller that it has on it, actually within about 4 hours topped the batteries off completely full. So I came in probably with about a half battery setup. I'd had it off the power for a while and put the solar panel on it. Within 4 hours I had full charge. So by the time I went to bed last night, I had full batteries, which was nice. That way I didn't have to worry about power running out in the night. So these things have dual AGM batteries. I'm pretty confident I'm not having to worry about that. If you're conscious of running power and making sure, like, you're not just leaving all the lights on, the water pump, all that stuff when you're not using it, you can conserve power and go pretty long without actually having to recharge the batteries, which is nice. As I mentioned in my walkthrough video, I'm actually going to ultimately replace those AGMs with lithiums, probably get some Battleborns, and the controller's actually already set up for that, so it'll just be an easy swap. That way I don't have to worry so much about conditioning the batteries, because with AGMs, I think you can only get them down to 25% before you start to damage the battery. Versus the lithiums, you can go flat all the way down to 0 thousands of times before you have to worry about replacing them. So other than that, real nice. I cooked out last night, used the stove, used the grill. Everything's working great. I really haven't had any issues with this thing. I'm really pleased. My biggest concern was sleeping in a box and the idea of it being somewhat claustrophobic, but I didn't have any of that. And it might have to do with the fact that it is painted white on the inside, so you don't really feel like you're in an enclosed space. It's actually quite a lot of room, so it's really nice. Anyway, just wanted to update everybody. Like I said, finally got one night in, which is nice. Plan to really look forward to doing multiple day cycle nights, whatever you want to call it. Can't think, it's too early. Basically doing a multi-day trip where I can sleep in this thing for several days on end. But yeah, I hope you enjoy the videos, and looking forward to making more. Talk to you soon. Thanks.